gives it to Gabriel Ferreira, number 7, who's making a run. There's nobody in front of him. Oh, man.
And welcome back. I am your host, not Gabe. I'm Bryan. Unfortunately, Gabe's not here with us today, but we do have Nate, as we always do. And we have another special guest with us here. Man of two names, an actual name and a name that just everyone else calls him. So we got Stevie / Tyler Vindua. How's it going?
Oh, good. How are you?
It's almost weird saying like your real name just because like for as long
Yeah.
I've known you, it's always Stevie. And when I found out your real name isn't Stevie, it was almost like, wait, am I being like punked here? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I think I've been called Stevie for 7 years now.
7 years. Wow. You know what though? Like you pick up a moniker and it just kind of sticks, and there you go.
Exactly.
So this is kind of going to be the first episode that we're doing on a bit of a new series. We're dubbing it Outside the X's and O's of Quidditch. So we have tons of people in the sport who've posted a bunch of podcasts, a bunch of videos online about how you do this or how you do that. And frankly, we could do that all day, but there's more to this sport than just picking apart plays. And I think looking at it, one of the biggest things that people don't discount, especially when they join the sport, they think this is a sport full of nerds. And realistically, a little bit of that's true, but a lot of it is this is a legitimate sport and something that people that myself included, I usually don't take as seriously as I should, is strength and conditioning. So we decided let's bring in an expert. So Stevie, do you want to kind of give us a little rundown on your background and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up playing basketball and swimming, which has served me pretty well in Quidditch. You guys know basketball runs really well and really easy for here. I went to Guelph Humber in Rexdale, did my undergrad in kinesiology. I have my diploma in fitness and health promotion. I went through and did a couple co-ops, one of them in a long-term care home where I realized rehab was not for me. And around that time, we took a course, exercise prescription with a focus on strength and conditioning, and that really interested me. So my next co-op I did at Soccer Fitness out in Vaughan, worked with Richard for 6 years there, worked with a lot of high-level players from 8 years old up to professional and national level players.
Mm-hmm.
If you follow women's soccer, I worked with Deanne Rose, midfielder, for 6 months. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
And yeah, so I got my certified strength conditioning specialist through the NSCA, National Strength Conditioning Association, back in 2016, I believe.
Okay.
And I've been working with strength conditioning since then. Pivoted in 2018 from a soccer focus onto a hockey focus.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I do a mix of hockey, soccer, and just general population.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, kind of, obviously, you kind of started off and you kind of, obviously, with a background in sports, you got involved in Quidditch shortly after, I guess, you started doing strength and conditioning, right? Like, that would have been 2018, 2019?
I started playing 2017.
2017.
The Valhalla Outdoor Tournament was my first one.
God, that seems so long ago.
Yeah, and that only happened because my girlfriend at the time was at a wedding. I had a weekend off work somehow, and Sugar called me and said, "You have no excuse. Come play."
You know what? That's how a lot of Sugar's just like, you have no excuse. Come out, come and do it.
And then I don't know how to say no, so here I am 5 years later.
Nice. So kind of when it comes to the fitness industry and when it comes to strength and conditioning, there's a lot of stuff that people tout, and there's a lot of pseudoscience that gets put out there by people who frankly aren't qualified. What do you think, like a background in kinesiology and strength conditioning and all that kind of like stuff that you're qualified in, what does that kind of bring to the table when you are training someone or when you're trying to show someone what they should be doing to keep themselves healthy?
Okay, so do you want more keep it healthy or more from a performance standpoint, or a bit of both?
Let's
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah, let's go a little both.
Bit of both. Okay, so just your general day-to-day activities. You have your squat, your hinge,
Mhm.
pushing, pulling, and then carries. Right.
Sure.
So you squat every time you get up and down from the toilet. You stand up from the bathroom. Hinge, you pick up something from the ground. Pushing, you open the door. You close the door. You put something on a shelf, bring it down, and then carrying, you carry the groceries in one trip.
Yeah.
So my basic philosophy, I pulled a lot of it from Dan John. He's a
Mhm.
really brilliant guy out in Murray, Utah. Great podcast, the Dan John podcast. A lot of the stuff I have from there is make up the basic 5 movements, build those till you're over body weight, like externally loaded.
Yep.
When you get to a certain point with certain thresholds, it's no longer your strength that's an issue. So an example would be the trap bar deadlift, the hex bar.
Mhm.
If you can do two times your body weight for a set of 3 on that, then strength isn't going to be your issue for lack of success in a sport. It's going to be that you just suck at the sport.
Yeah.
So when I work with athletes, my goal is we have certain thresholds we try to hit, depending on their sport, of course,
Mhm.
where I'm trying to do my best to keep them there, get them to those points while keeping them at a low enough body weight so that they don't get super bulky, but they just develop that neural connection. So it's just all pop, pop, pop. And then when they get there, it's on them and their actual coaches for the sport to have them succeed. And then on the other hand, in your day-to-day life, the way that ties in for you is that if you can deadlift twice your body weight, there's a very, very minuscule chance of you getting hurt or throwing at your back from something small like picking up your laundry or any of those weird little things where we're getting old now. We're almost 30, where it's all,
Yep.
oh, I threw my back out getting out of bed. If you have that kind of strength and your body's used to that load, there's a very low chance of that happening. So my first priority is make your day-to-day life easier. And then if you're an athlete, get you strong enough where you might just suck at your sport instead of being too weak.
So it's a lot of like functional building blocks is kind of the
Yes.
base of it, and you want to get those motions. Like
Yeah.
I'd say, like, obviously you said like background in swimming. Like I swam as well, and a lot of like teaching swimming is, hey, you're gonna learn to kick first, then we're gonna learn to do the arm motions, and then we're gonna start to
Yeah.
put it together. And like from that, I can kind of gander like, hey, yeah, a lot of what I did teaching is kind of in a similar way, that you just want to teach the parts first, and then putting it all together in complex motion is a whole nother thing. And if you
Exactly.
can't be the fastest there, like, let's look at the base steps first.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. So when it comes to strength and conditioning, what would you say kind of are like pet peeves, or what do you think there are problems that Quidditch players specifically don't really focus on, or they don't keep in mind, or what they should keep in mind? Like what are Quidditch athletic strength and conditioning is going wrong currently, in your opinion?
So it's not just Quidditch, it's every sport in general. I see it all the time with my clients where it's, I don't want to get bulky. I need to work my core. I need to do this. First of all, it's super hard to get bulky. You have to be in a massive calorie surplus. You have to be putting in the work, having a high volume of weight for a session to get bulky. And then your core is such an arbitrary term. Your core is your shoulders to below your hips.
Yeah.
That's the core. So when I program in core training, we just pick something heavy up and we walk. We do carries. You're running through one of our programs right now, Brian. It's farmer carries for like 40 meters. It sucks.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. My biggest problem is trying to find a space in the gym where I'm not awkwardly interrupting someone else. That's my biggest thing. But a lot of it's, I pick it up and just kind of move around. Like it feels very kind of natural, I find.
And then core training in general, if you're bracing properly, if you have, say you're squatting, you have 2 plates on your back, so 225, depending on the person, it might be a lot, might not be a lot. But if you're squatting that, you have to get your core pretty tight to hold that. You got to get your stability, keep everything nice and tight there, and then you're cruising for that. So I don't program in any direct core work. It's just heavy lifting. The closest thing you call it direct core work might be ab rollouts.
Yeah.
And that's more to take off the load from your lower back when we do high volume squats or deadlifts. The ab roll engages a lot of the front of your torso, which will offset the low back strain. And then we do anti-rotation. So you think of your obliques, instead of actually moving through there, we hold that rotation and resist that. That comes in real handy as you're a large person, Bryan. You know, when you're getting hit, you're always getting rocked in the ribs.
Yeah.
I remember when we played you guys in the indoor Guelph tournament, Otters Valfreya, I just kept getting rocked in the ribs. Every single time that ball left my hand, I got hit in the ribs.
Yep.
And it happened for the entire game. But like my background and my being strong literally is what kept me breathing and working for the next week.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I think, and what you said too, like with the idea of like people just like looking to be like, oh, I don't want to be bulky, or I don't want to do this. I don't like, in my mind, like if you're functionally strong, like fat weighs a lot less per, like the density of fat is super big. So like if you have the same weight, like you could be deceptively heavy, and that doesn't really mean that you're fat or big. It's just you have a lot of muscle there, right? If you're super large and your weight is kind of lower, like if that was all muscle, you'd be shooting through the like floor, right? Like it's
like I don't look like, you might be surprised, but I weigh about 185. I fluctuate between 185 190.
Yeah, and the difference in height between you and me is also like what 6
I'm
inches?
5'7". I'm 5'7".
Yeah, and I'm like 6'2", 6'3". So yeah, like there's a big gap there.
And then having the strength and the muscle mass as well. If you do put that on, you guys played with me for a few years. I lived with Nate. You guys know I had every knee tear, and I was still able to play at a decently high level with nothing. I had 7 tears out of the 6 structures in the knee. I had 7 tears.
So that's crazy. Like, and I think that brings back to like a kind of a slight detour. And like when it comes to all the strength and conditioning, we do it not just to like perform, but obviously you want to rehab injuries that you have. And how do you change what you're doing, or is there a reason to change what you're doing, if you're recovering from an injury or if you're just building up regularly?
Okay, so it sounds like you're talking about like prehab type stuff.
Yeah,
there's a couple really interesting studies that I went through when I was in school. They found that it was on people with a broken wrist. So say your right wrist is broken, we would load the hell out of your left arm and your entire left side, and by your body developing the neural connections for your left side, your right side actually didn't have as much a drop off as they thought. So
yeah, I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's
anytime
weird.
Someone's injured, it's like when I hurt my right leg and I couldn't really do much, I'm like, okay, well, I got another leg, so I worked on that leg. You just do that. For me, if someone's injured, I find the largest range they can do before they feel pain.
Yeah.
So if this is like if this is your knee and you feel pain here, we'll work to right there, and we'll just build up that, and then slowly over time, you'll be able to get back into that full range we're looking for, and then life's a lot easier. Blood heals everything. The blood is how your body will heal. If you're working in that minimal range of motion, you're forcing more blood to go there because you're requiring your oxygen. So you're going to get all the extra nutrients there, which will speed up healing.
Absolutely. So it's I guess instead of focusing on the amount of weight at that point, it's more what range of stuff you can do. Like, okay, the actual
just move.
Just
keep it active.
A good example would be when I couldn't do Bulgarian split squats with my right leg back. I could load it fine on the front, but I couldn't go through the stretch on the back. What I did instead was I did assisted pistol squats on my left. So I grabbed the TRX and I'd load a little bit with the arms there, but then with the straps, I would do single leg squats and pistols on my left leg. So I get the full thing there, and I didn't put any strain on the right. So just those slight tweaks here and there to just continue training, because at the end of the day, something's better than nothing. If you're still moving, you'll you won't be as far behind as you intended to be. In terms of prehab, I like to put little things that are just like little injury preventers mixed in. So that could be something as simple as touchdowns. Like you go on a step, curl your off leg up, bend your knee, touch your heel, come back up.
Mhm.
It's like a bastardized step up. Instead of stepping up onto something, you're lightly letting yourself down, and that just promotes proper form and function in your knee, provided your hip is in the right positioning. And then that allows you to withstand more forces when you do come in contact later, because your knee wants to naturally stay in that position because you've built up that habit that if you take a hit, your body will have a little more there. The mass I had in my right leg when I got that hit, it took a lot of force, but my quads took all the force. So I actually detached the full tendon from my VMO, the big teardrop on the inside, that detached from the quadriceps tendon, and that saved my MCL and ACL, which later then got torn later. But at the time, it saved it.
Just a late warning on the graphic content, people. But if you're squeamish, I'm sorry. That's just how it is. But it's real things, right? Like Nate, you've had back problems. I think you said.
I have a question about that actually.
Yeah, go shoot.
So I'm gonna say, so I've been going to physio for at least from September for lower back pain. So I've been going to physio pretty regularly for that. So for someone who's active playing sports and I guess Quidditch, what would you suggest or recommend for someone to either prevent any further back damage, I guess, or just to prevent further like inflammation of the back, and like how would you kind of also help strengthen the back to kind of recover and all that?
So first, that's out of my scope, but what I would, provided I had the information from your physio, it sounds counterintuitive, but back extension exercises. So you're laying back extension like a Superman. Good mornings, where you put the bar on your back, you get tall and you just do a hinge. So you push your butt way back. So actually loading your back to increase the muscle and the load tolerance there would help. It sounds like maybe some mobility might be an issue. Do you? Oh yeah, you spend all day sitting because you're in school.
So for me, it's a lot of core. Like I put a lot of weight on my lower back. It seems, or my physiotherapist discovered. Then implemented my core. So I've been working on building that and more so activating my core than dependent so much on my lower back, but also helping to relieve that pain and strengthen, I guess, my back muscles.
Yeah.
Or at least, but we haven't been using any weights. So I was thinking what would you think would be a safe manner to go about doing that with using weights in my
Okay, so the amount of weight is dependent on the person. I'm personally very stubborn, so if I write out all my workouts in my book in pen, once it's written in pen, I don't cross it, I do it. So sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. If it's a rough day, I'm like, okay, I got to grind through this, it's here, it's written in pen. But then some days I'm beat up and I hate my life, and I'm like, well, it's in pen, so I got to do this. One thing you could definitely check out, Stu McGill. He's probably the top back expert in the world. He has what he calls the McGill Big Three, which are 3 exercises. I believe it's the partial curl up, the bird dog, and the side plank. And he recommends doing those before every session. Stu McGill, STUMCGILL, like the university.
Yep.
So that'd be a really good spot to start. And then just playing with the ranges of motion before you feel your pain. So if I'm here, I'll put this down, but if you start to feel pain right here on an extension, stop before then and just slowly tease in that range of motion that you can tolerate with load.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll definitely check them out.
Now, so we've been talking a lot of health. When it comes to performance, which is kind of the other side, what you talked about before, what do you think in your mind when it comes to Quidditch athletes? How should they approach training? So, what kind of areas should they focus on? Because obviously there's the strength side and there's the conditioning side. So, from the strength side, what kind of areas do you think? Let's just say a general Quidditch player. Let's take position out of it for now. What kind of areas do you think they should be approaching if you're newer to the sport or you're looking to kind of move up in the Quidditch world and play at a higher level?
lower body is king. Lower body, lower body, lower body. If you are, there's a kind of I don't remember the exact phrase I heard from one of the strength coaches I follow, but what it boiled down to was you'll never see someone with big legs that's weak in the upper body, but you'll definitely find people weak in the upper body with small legs or with big legs. So it goes both ways. If you have strong legs and if you have really strong legs, your upper body's going to be strong.
Yeah.
Because just take a squat, for example. If you're squatting 2 times your body weight, take me, I'm 185. That's 370. If I have 370 on there, you have to have a really strong torso to support that. Your back has to be strong. Your shoulders have to be strong. You have to have a big enough trap so that it doesn't just crush your spine.
Yeah.
So you'll build up your legs is good. Another big thing is people get caught with the weight on the bar. So one thing I say to my clients is, first, we're going to find a weight that's 8.5 out of 10 difficulty wise. 10 is super hard, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So go to 8.5 out of 10. And then we move that until it feels like we move it and we stay with that weight until the speed of it is moving like a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
So a good example, one of my clients right now, he's a 21-year-old soccer goalkeeper.
Mhm.
He's actually out in St. FX right now on trial to try out for their team. But he was front squatting, I think 225, but he was moving slow. So we had his max at 285 for one, but 225 all the way to 285, every increment was moving the same speed, which was slow as hell.
Mhm.
So I wanted him to just almost have it as fast as no weight at all.
Yeah.
So as much as it frustrated him, we stayed there until it went faster, faster, faster. And then once it moved like it was no weight and there was nothing on the bar, we retested his max, and his max actually climbed by 35 pounds.
Makes
So
sense.
it's like you're an engineer, Brian, physics, force is mass times acceleration.
Yeah.
Have your mass have a slower acceleration, so you just work on the speed, get the acceleration up, and you just move that quicker.
Well,
And
yeah.
then you go one further with power.
Yeah, a lot of and you could think of energy, you're moving weight a certain distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you move it up and down, move it up and down. But if you take off a little bit of the weight and you can do that even more, you're still burning the same amount of energy, but the work is slightly different, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to account for other things, but obviously you can't be like, oh, I'm gonna lift a 1 pound little bar a million times. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's where the self-reporting and the find that gauge on a 1 to 10 scale comes in handy.
Yeah.
Like up until 7.5 out of 10, it's a warm-up, it doesn't count. So if you have to do 4 sets of 5, until that weight is 7.5 out of 10, it doesn't count there. Now the downside to that is we're trusting the athletes'
to be
judgment.
honest.
Yeah. So then if I'm working with someone and I'll see it, I have some kids that have some clients who have clued into that. So I'll be like, how was that 1 to 10? And they look like, oh, and they try to remember what my criteria is. And they're like, that's an 8. And I'm like, no, you're a liar. That's a 4 at the most.
If you have to think about it like that,
yeah, exactly. And then you can just tell on face, if you're not straining, if there's no slight hitch in it, you're not breathing heavy, you can go more.
There's no sweat. There's no There's
it's the same thing. You tell someone if you're running sprints, you can tell who's dogging it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I guess that's a nice transition there. So we talked on the strength side. What about the conditioning side of things? Obviously, for Quidditch, you're running around a lot. Do you think it's more important that people just focus a lot more on the stamina side of it? Is it more on the acceleration, explosiveness, agility? Where do you think people need to focus?
So this is where positions come more into play. We're all quaffle players, so we're similar. I think of this one as our position is a basketball.
Yeah.
We come down the field, we sprint, we rest, we sprint, we rest, we sprint, we rest.
Mm-hmm.
So for something like that, I like doing circuit style. So put together 4 or 5 exercises. You have a minute for each exercise, but you only have a set amount. So they're generally called EMOMs, every minute on the minute.
Yeah.
Quick one off the top of my head, we do sled drag and push, medicine ball slam. Then we'll do kettlebell swings, farmer carry, and then maybe rollouts, just because we're putting a lot on our back there.
Mhm.
So the first minute you go, you do your sled for your distance, push, pull, you rest the rest of the minute. Next minute starts, you go to your medicine ball slam, you do your reps, you rest the rest of the minute. And then you want to pick a weight, though, where it's that one we're going for a weight that's 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's going to be real hard to do. You're huffing and puffing. Then, oh no, I have 25 seconds before my next exercise starts.
Yeah.
And then that will build up your heart rate and your capacity. But that's working more to your anaerobic. So your quick recovery, you got to go. And that's where you start to feel the burn. And this is a physiology pet peeve, but the lactic acid.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the lactic acid. Lactic acid is good for you. It's the hydrogen buildup. And that's where but then that ties into your aerobic system where if you have a good aerobic system, you can get that hydrogen out and repurpose that lactate and lactic acid into energy.
Yeah.
With your Krebs cycle. So I like to do, for our position, I would do a lot of short, quick, and high intensity ones. But then if you switch beaterly, because let's be real, we don't know what they do. They just run around on the side. They get in the way sometimes, most of the time. Yeah. But with the beaters, with them, I'd actually have more, I'd mix in at least once a week of the long slogs. So running at like a long one, like 60 to 70% of your capacity, and just building that tolerance and that base. Yeah. Because while they will have bouts of sprinting, they're still always moving. So they'll need that lower threshold to be able to recover and still move.
It's less top speed and it's more constant movement.
Yeah, so that one I'd think of more. Oh, perfect. We can use soccer for everything. Think of a striker as the chasers. They do a sprint and then they just walk back because they're lazy. Yeah. A beater, your midfielder, they sprint up with the strikers and they have to drop back and then jog around with the defenders and back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you classify? I always hear the term like hit like high interval intensity training or high intensity interval training. That's it.
Yeah.
That's more what, like on the chaser side, right? Because you're doing like lots of reps, or is that kind of more general?
It depends how you do it. It can go with both.
Mm-hmm.
Hit such a broad term. It just means that you're keeping your heart rate high.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all it is. You're just keeping your heart rate high. But absolutely. So when I was going through college, I lived in Brampton for a year, and there was nothing to do there, so I ran every morning. And what I did was I had it worked out where I would sprint for one set of lampposts, and then I would jog down to about 60% for 3 lampposts. And I do that my entire run as I'm going. So it would be about 5 to 8 kilometers. And it's just sprint 1 lamppost distance, jog, lighter jog 3, sprint, lighter jog, and just go for the whole time. And that really built up my capacity. And it was great. Now that I'm shorter on time, I just rip straight sprints. And then, and then the beauty of Quidditch too, and being a ball carrier, if you're tired, you can slow it down. There are times where I'll be there like, no, we're gonna walk this up. Let's simmer down.
It's called being patient, Stevie. It's patience. We're all about patience.
It's called being lazy. I literally remember I think back to again that final where we played you guys, and Atan is telling me to run up the field, but I had like 6 straight minutes of play because my sub was injured, and I literally looked at him and I go, no, stop this. I'm gonna walk. I am tired. And so I walked it up, and then I took that low break where needed. But yeah, you just build it up. Mm-hmm. If you're new and you don't really have much of a base, regardless of position, I'd mix in both the long slogs and quick short rests and high intervals.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do remember like that game in that like indoor place for the Otters. We didn't have much of a big team. I think there was like 16 of us or something. I think you were there, right, Nate?
Less. I think we had like 3 or 4 non-male players.
Yeah.
So like they had to play almost the whole game, and we were like pretty rested because we had 4 lines.
We only had 3 beaters. I remember that.
We only brought 12 players without Freya.
Yeah.
We brought 12 players.
Yeah. I guess we were lucky then. We were just rolling out lines, but God, I do remember like after like a long day of Quidditch, like you start to feel it by the end, and you're just like, okay. The first game, first shift is always like, okay, it's kind of weird, you gotta get into it. But like as you get that like 2nd, 3rd, 4th game, everything's fine. That like 5th game though is like usually by the time it's like 8 o'clock at night, but yeah,
you have to like a long break as well, where it's like you have 2-3 hours off in between
Oh,
games.
I hate
The
that.
next game, it's like you don't want to play. Your
Yeah,
body's
like,
just
why do you need a lunch break? Just eat your lunch when you're not playing.
Yeah.
Why
or
would we
if you're
put
a bench
aside 3
rider,
hours
if you're a
for
bench
lunch?
warmer, you just eat it during the whole game.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there like when it comes to training? I obviously you kind of want to get. I think you've mentioned for when we talk like Team Canada stuff.
Mhm.
And I guess if people don't know, your official capacity with Team Canada is what? You're in like strength coordinating coach,
Yeah,
or
I'm just
it's
what
semi-formal.
I believe the direct quote was what from Howie was make them strong.
Okay. Make them strong guy. Yeah. I remember you saying like, or like in your notes and stuff, like you want to get this all done in like what, like an hour and a bit or so.
Yeah,
Do you find that like anything longer than that, just you kind of lose effectiveness at that point, or?
it's not that you lose effectiveness. It's you're dilly dallying. Everyone playing Quidditch is either an adult out of school or you're in school. Most 95% of people don't have the time to put out 75, 90, 2 hour sessions.
Yeah.
So in and out an hour is fine. Until we get to a part where it's like sets of 3, 4, and we're working into like 90% and 9 out of 10s, you don't need longer than 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Odds are you're on your phone mucking around. So that's why you've seen the templates. It's block for each set.
Yep.
You print out the entire cycle. So the 5 weeks, you bring a pen, you fill it in as you go, you catch your breath, and you just go by feel. I get a lot of skepticism from especially new clients, the young hockey players. There it is.
I got all my
Exactly.
sheets of
Got
stuff.
your receipts. The skepticism I get a lot of is, oh, am I going to be overtraining? It's hard to overtrain. It is very difficult to overtrain. If you think you're overtraining, you pretty much got to do what you're doing times 2 with less rest.
Wow.
It's very rare for actual overtraining.
Well, and if you really have that much of like I would say like with no background in this stuff, if you're really like hurting, like you should kind of like realize what's going on and obviously talk to someone. Like that makes sense. Like don't just go at it until you're like dropping on the floor and passing out. Like that's
exactly. And
never
if you're at a weight where you can't recover in 90 seconds, 2 minutes, it's too high.
Yeah.
You can definitely be moving it faster. You can tighten it up, and you can tighten up your form. So drop the weight a bit. And that's why I like to go with the 8.5 out of 10, because a minute, 90 seconds, you're back and ready to go again.
Yeah, no, makes a lot of sense.
That's where we go there. And then I'm not sure if you've noticed the actual, as the weights have intended to be going up and the actual load goes up, our reps and sets have tapered way down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the actual amount of exercises you're doing are shorter too and less. So you compensate for that, where we still keep a high load, but now it's just bang, 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 get it out, rest instead of pop, 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 hit a lot of them.
I remember when I started like the Team Canada like training program, I was like, I can't get. There's so many sets. I'm like, I could move at a decent clip. Like I could like bench press or Bulgarian split squats or whatever. Like there's certain things that I'm not like familiar with. So I was like, okay, I just want to make sure I'm doing it right, because that's important in my mind to actually do the motion.
It absolutely is.
And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm running out of time. The gym's closing, especially during COVID times. The gym was closing constantly, and I'm like, okay, I got to get out of here by 10. Everyone's coming around.
The hypertrophy general prepared phase is where we really slog on the reps, and that's where we tighten in on the nuances of your technique and we build your base. It's like when you're in your first year of school, you take all the general maths and sciences, you build your base, and then you start to specialize in what you're going to. So in that one, we build your base, but also it tests how strong you are mentally. when you see, I have 8 sets of the same 4 exercises today. Yep. By set 6, you start to question why you're here. Set 7, you hate your life. Set 8, you hate me. Oh no, you hate me by like set 4 or 5. But then afterwards, like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And then the cycle repeats the next day.
Yeah.
But the one I like to say to my clients all the time is, if you're hating me and complaining, then turn that energy into more weight. Suck it up.
It's funny because you always hear like, oh, all the movie tropes of like, don't let anger control you, don't use this fuel, like use that like passion or use the other stuff. When it comes to gym, like anger or like I always find like I'm using like such more heavy or like rock and roll music, and like it's never like happier like fun music. I'm always just like, gotta move this here and I'm gonna move it back and
Exactly.
then I'm gonna go walk over there, I'm gonna go walk over it back. Like,
There have been studies on that too.
yeah, it's such an interesting thing, but like I never come out like upset or like I'm angry at
Hmm.
someone. I'm just like, oh, I just want to push things around. Like,
Yeah, it's usually midway through the anger
yeah.
when you're on set 4 out of 8 and you're like, I'm gonna kill this guy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's why the rage rooms, those were so profitable, right? Like people just want to take out aggression apparently, and
Yeah, exactly.
if they couldn't do it in the gym, they're like, I'm just going to smash stuff. So,
Actually, to your music point, I usually lift with nothing on, like in silence. And a guy I used to work with at the gym, at one of the gyms I worked at, on occasion he would like him and I would both lift in silence. And on occasion, he'd walk in, he'd be like, "All right, Tyler, a smooth jazz kind of day." And we
ooh,
just put on some nice jazz music. So
nice.
like we're both pushing pretty good weight, and then you just hear a nice sax solo.
I remember I go to I used to go to Good Life way back, but now I go to Fit for Less, which was the small office
Mhm.
area thing that was wildly ineffective for what it was. But now they've moved it to a former Good Life, and it's great and it's open. And I still pay next to nothing, so life is awesome there. Um, the biggest dude I've ever seen in that gym, and like he was both like lean, but like you could tell he's strong. He's got all of his like groups. He didn't have like little chicken legs. Like
Mhm.
it looks natural. They're like I'm like, yes, that's what like the end goal. If I go absolutely nuts, that's what I should aim for. And I just remember like walking by him doing something, and he was just blasting anime music, and I'm like, apparently it works. Like he's going hard, and that's his thing. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
You just gotta find what works for you. Like
Yeah.
I was like, there's no shame in that. The guy gets results.
Sam listens to murder podcasts when she works out.
There you go.
Okay.
But
I
yeah, like, so you're talking about Fit for Less, your big old Good Life, your old Good Life gym. My gym right now I have a full rack and everything in my basement where I live. It is our gym room is 8.5 feet by 9.5 feet by 7 feet 2 inches up. So I
wow.
can't overhead press.
Yeah.
I have to do everything seated. I love doing Olympic lifts,
Hmm.
but I can't clean and press. I can only clean. I can't snatch. So
Clean
that's
is
why
down to the like floor
clean
and
clean is up to your shoulders.
okay.
Snatch is the wide grip overhead,
Yeah.
and your clean and press would be clean, and then up.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the three big movers.
Those are like the Olympic ones, right? Are
Yeah,
they? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
for one more Olympics. They're gone in 2028, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not enough viewership, and they're pulling it out for skateboarding and the rock climbing and stuff. There's like three
Really?
or four sports that are going to be pulled out.
It still gutted me like way back when baseball got pulled from
Yeah.
Summer Olympics, but I was like, the problem is baseball has like the MLB where everyone goes, then it has like the
Hmm.
Japanese league which is really good, and then it has like the
Yeah.
Korean league which is like a little worse, and then after that it's like nobody. Like
Yeah.
there's no league that really compares, and it's like
Yeah.
cool. A couple countries come in and they play for their teams, but we already watch them compete against each other all the time already.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean much.
Yeah. It's like soccer. The Olympics in soccer isn't very. It's
Doesn't
not
serve.
very good. I
Yeah.
think there's like some where it's like they got to have mainly under a certain age, and because the big ones that the countries care about is the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. Well, I guess with that, where do you see like obviously there's the Olympics are a whole other thing. That's far off in the future. But when it comes to Quidditch, where do you see like the future of sports and conditioning for Quidditch? Like what obviously as the sport kind of grows, what
Hmm.
like resources or what things should people look forward to? Like you've mentioned like soccer and basketball is good kind of resources. Is there any other kind of
Hmm.
like training programs that you think apply really well?
Rugby is good just because of purely lateral movements.
Mhm.
Like if you can move laterally, you're gonna cruise. Also, rugby teaches you how to take and make hits, especially with the inclusion of two-arm tackling.
Yep.
But also, and rugby's also great for just stiff arming someone into the ground.
There you go. Absolutely.
But yeah, like if you play basketball, offense as a chaser is literally just basketball.
Yep.
It's easy with there. It's just basketball. In terms of like the growth of Quidditch, I think getting, and this just applies to society in general, just getting away from the whole mindset of weights make you bulky. You got to try real hard to get bulky.
Yeah.
And the other big pet peeve of mine is I want to tone my muscle. That one is my
Is it just garbage?
Toning a muscle is just losing body fat. Your muscle gets bigger and you lose the body fat. That's all toning is.
Yeah.
So you get your ass in the kitchen, you make good food. You make some good quality food. That's where your toning is going to come from.
So I guess maybe it falls outside your expertise, or maybe it doesn't. What part do you say like eating healthy and all that comes to it? Like, do you think is it sufficient just to do like healthy eating? Do you think like supplements are fine, or eating, or like doing a protein powder? Like
You
yeah.
Yeah, so you can't out train a bad diet because you think about it realistically. Right now with TC program, we're in the gym 4 days a week, 3 days a week for an hour. 4 hours out of your, I'm not that good at math. How many hours in a week? Like 170, 168? I think it's 168.
8, 2. Yep. You got it.
Yeah, so 168 hours are in a week.
Quick math.
You're in the gym for 4.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, the other 164. Say you're lucky enough to get 8 hours of sleep a day. That's 56 more hours. So 60 hours of your week are gone for eating or for sleeping in the gym. What are you doing with your other 108 hours? If you're eating crap, it's not going to go well for you. You'll likely, if you're eating a lot of low quality food, you'll be in a caloric surplus. Nate's in school for this. He knows you're going to start packing them on. He's a dietitian. If you it's simple math. More in than out, you put on. More out than in, you lose. It's at the end of the day, it boils down to that. In terms of your supplements, try to get almost all from food if you can. I do like shakes on the go because so right now I'm a teacher as well as a trainer, so I do both. So a lot of the time I'm out of the house. I leave at 6:30 to go to the school. I don't get home some days till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. Yeah. So for me, I always keep about 2 or 3 shakes ready to go. So I just get a container of my protein powder on my way from the school to the gym, make a shake. There we go, finish. I have an hour maybe between clients or on my way to my next client, make another shake, good to go. By the time I get home, I'll eat a little bit and then have another shake before bed. The good rule of thumb is about roughly 1 gram per kilogram of body weight for your protein intake, or 1 gram per pound. But the caveat to that one is it's not where you're currently at, it's what you want to be at.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
I wanted to cut down to 170 and I'm 185, I wouldn't be going for 185 grams of protein. I'd be going down for 170. And then you just kind of tailor things down to there. Nate will be able to speak to it better than I can on ratios, but everyone's different with it. Some people will process glucose a lot better than others.
Yeah.
So maybe they can have a higher ratio of glucose. I'm not sure if you saw the Tristan Thompson article a couple of years ago. He was saying LeBron's just munching gummy bears all the time. Gummy bears, sour keys, candy, and LeBron's a freak.
Yeah.
He is arguably the greatest basketball player ever.
Yeah.
But then you have other people where I think a snippet came out of Ronaldo's diet. He's a lot of fruit and vegetables and fish only. That's a lot of his is on. So everyone's processed differently, but at the end of the day, they're all getting in their protein is their big thing. Muscle, run is made of proteins. You got your amino acids with your building blocks. Every time you exercise, they break down. You got to put your Legos back in.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, like I just find I do the same thing with like protein shakes. Like it's more of a convenience thing than
Yeah.
an added
Mhm.
thing, right? Like
I use them to get my sometimes when I get home, if I have time, I'll use them to get more vegetables in. I'll take some like frozen pineapple, a banana, handful of spinach, some other like maybe some kale if we have it, but kale's expensive and I'm not about that life. So I just put green stuff and fruits in there, and then I pop a couple scoops of protein in, mix with some water. I've now gotten a good amount of protein, and then I've gotten some more vegetables in me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, yeah, that's a whole nother podcast if we start going to food, because I love food, but yeah, I gotta fix habits there.
Everyone does.
But I guess with that leading off, Nate, do you have any last questions you want to ask Stevie, or Stevie, you want to make any other points? Like tone, you got any like toning muscle level points of aggression you want to get out?
Here's a really good one I like. The back of your body are your go muscles.
Mm-hmm.
The front of your body are your show muscles.
Go for show.
What go versus show? So a good thing on that is, have you ever seen a sprinter with a small ass?
No, sir.
They all have big butts because your glutes are the largest muscle in your body. That's your primary hip mover. That's your go muscle. So what I usually try to do is almost a 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1 of back versus front.
Yeah.
So I put a large focus on the back of your body because one, unless you're really into training and you're super serious about your sport, you're going to work on what you can see. A lot of people and a lot of society, nobody cares about their back. Nobody cares about their legs. It's what do you see on the beach? You see the pecs, the delts, and the abs on the beach. That's what you personally see. People will see your back, but you don't care because you can't see it. So I've spent a lot of time working on back, rotator cuff stuff. So like external rotations, you would know the Ys, IYTs, your face pulls, working those guys, but also society now in the last 2 years, we've moved to being an online society. So you're going to be sitting at your desk, your shoulders are rolled in. You got to do a lot of work on the back of your body to pull everything back and keep you leveled out.
As someone who throughout this entire pandemic has gone to work every single day, like I haven't been shut down at all. I still have to sit 45 minutes to go to work in my car,
Exactly.
like one way. So yeah, like absolutely, that stuff adds up, and it's not always helpful.
So yeah, you look at that. Your hips are flexed. Your hip flexors are going to be always active because hip flexors are active when your knee comes in towards your torso. So 45 minutes, you have that shortened angle. Your hip flexors are going. How are you going to combat that? Work your glutes.
Yep, absolutely.
There it is.
Any last things, Nate?
So probably like to end things off. So like if you're a university Quidditch player, which is like the majority of the league, or at least it should be, like what are 3 quick things or 3 quick tips you would say like they should implement regarding like strength and conditioning that wouldn't really require them like having to go to the gym per se, or something that they could do that doesn't take much time and effort during their day when they're also like studying online and whatnot?
Yeah. Look up Dan John. He'll be your best bet for that. Like he's been doing this since the 60s or since the 70s. He's high level coach. He's amazing. One thing I do like to do with people, instead of setting a full ass hour apart for your gym, look at what you want to get done that day, chunk it off. So you have a 20-minute lunch. Okay, in a 20-minute lunch, maybe I can get through some chin-ups today. So 20-minute lunch, you can bang out 20, 25 chin-ups at lunch. Okay, I have 10 minutes between meetings, hammer out some stairs or lunges. So instead of doing it all at once, do a daily accumulation.
Makes sense.
So if you're just trying to set a maybe 100 squats, 100 lunges, 15 flights of stairs, but over the course of the day. And then anytime you have a spare second, you go. That's how I got good at chin-ups. I put it when I used in high school and I was playing Call of Duty all the time, I put the chin-up bar on the entranceway to the basement before the bathroom. If I had to go to the bathroom, do 2 chin-ups in, 2 chin-ups out. If I had to go get food, chin-ups in, chin-ups out. That's my buy-in. You got to do them to get in and out of the room.
That makes me like it makes me remember when I played Roller Coaster Tycoon and I charged 10 cents for the washroom because I need to generate money. It's like you gotta go, you gotta pay the tax.
And then you give them free refills.
I didn't even think about that. That game fuels my capitalism streak a little too much. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, daily totals, Dan John, and if you're not sure, ask someone in the gym. Odds are if it's a really big person in there, they'll have no issues helping you as long as you don't go in the middle of a set. It's usually the people with the hoodies on, they're probably usually the nicest people in the gym.
Mhm.
But go up to them, ask them if you need a spot and you're unsure with a new weight, ask them for a spot, ask them for advice. One actually quick fun thing I used to do in university, I'd put headphones in, but I'd have nothing in. So I'd just have literally just a headphone with the cord. And one of the girls in my class came to see what I was listening to, and she just pulled out the end of the aux cord, and it was just the cord in my pocket. And she just looked at me, and I'm like, and I just put it back in my pocket.
it's a good way.
But yeah, like if you need help, ask for help. YouTube University is the best. It has everything and anything you can need.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Stevie, for coming on. Hopefully we can see you again soon. And anything you want to plug or post the people to?
Not your strength and conditioning business? No.
No, I had to step back a bit. I'm too busy with school and teaching. I'm down from well, you lived with me, Nate. You remember I was out all day, every day. I was doing 25 to 30 sessions a week, plus working full-time construction when I lived with Nate. And now I've tapered back down to 12, 15 sessions a week, and I have so much more free time. It's great. I sleep 6 hours a night now instead of 4.
Wow.
As someone who's never done it, if I can suggest something, if you don't have a summer job, go join construction because that apparently works. That will get you jacked. Quality of life, so, but fitness, there you go.
You lose a lot of weight because you don't have time to eat. You just have time for coffee.
Yeah. Simple math. No in, a lot of out.
Exactly.
Weight goes down.
You might hate your life, though. Nate will tell you that one. Just come home, head down, slam the door.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Well, thank you once again for having us on.
Yeah, no worries. See you guys soon. I think the next practice is April or something.
Yeah, I hope stuff Quidditch starts happening soon. Weather's getting nice. Yeah. It's been nice for the last couple days, so
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. If anyone wants to check out our Instagram, it's No Beaters Podcast on Instagram, and we're always here on YouTube. And you can message Gabe. Message Gabe. He's not here to defend himself. But thank you for coming on, Stevie. And
no worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.